Okay, so here is one of the classic work problems. Melina can paint a house in 4 hours, and Dennis can paint the same house in 2 hours. How long will it take them to paint the house together? Okay, so we always want to set up a chart for this. There's a couple different ways you can do this. You can talk about their rate and their total time, or you can talk about their adding their rate and then the time it takes them together. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about adding their rates and the time it takes them together. So here we've got Melina, Dennis, and together. That's what the M, D, and T is for. Melina, Dennis, and then together. So 3 different things. How long does it take Melina to paint the house alone? So the hours it takes her alone, that's 4 hours. Okay. For Dennis, how long does it take him to paint the house alone? That's 2 hours. And then how long does it take for them to paint the house together? Well, that's exactly what the question is. So that's what we're going to call X. That's our unknown. Okay, and then the rate is how much of the job they can get done in 1 hour. So if it takes Melina 4 hours to paint the house, after 1 hour she has completed 1/4 of the job. Now again, if it takes Dennis 2 hours to paint the whole house, then after 1 hour he has completed 1/2 of the job. And it works exactly the same for together, except for together it's just an unknown, but it still works the same. Their rate, after 1 hour, they would have had 1/6 of the job done. Alright, so that's their rates, and the idea that you want to think about is Melina and Dennis working together, that would be the plus sign, would equal what we have under our chart as them together. So that's the 1/4 plus 1/2 equals 1 over x. 1/4 plus 1/2 equals 1 over x. Okay. Once you have this, this is what we can solve. This we can go ahead and talk about their LCD. So if you look at this, you have to identify the least common denominator, which in this case between 4 and 2 is definitely 4. There's an x on the denominator, so that counts as part of your least common denominator. So that's what you're going to multiply all 3 fractions by. Because you have an equal sign, you can do just the tops of all the fractions. Again, that's because we're solving. We have an equal sign. Okay, and then you're going to see what's going to cancel for each one separately. It looks like for the first fraction, the 4 will cancel, and I will be left over with the 1 and the x. And then I have a plus. It looks like the second fraction, that 2 and 4 will reduce. I'll be left over with the 2, the x times 1, which we don't have to write. And then that third fraction, the x cancels. I'm left over with 4 times 1, which is just 4. And then we can combine like terms. So 1x plus 2x is 3x equals 4. Notice it's eliminated all the fractions, makes it a lot easier to solve. Divide both sides of the fraction, of the equation, divide both sides by 3. The 3 will cancel, and I will end up with x equals 4/3. You're welcome to write that as 1 1/3 if you'd like. It doesn't really matter. But the point is it's x equals 1 1/3 hours, because x was time. Okay, so that's the x equals 1 1/3 hours. So that's how long it takes them to paint the house together. Let's see if that makes sense. Let's go back and look at the problem one more time. Melina can paint a house in 4 hours. Dennis can paint the same house in 2 hours. How long will it take them to paint the house together? So we got that it took them 1 1/3 hours. Of course that makes sense. Think about it. Of course it can't take more than 2 hours. If Dennis can do the whole thing by himself in 2 hours, you kind of want to think of it as Melina is helping him out, which means it's going to take them less amount of time, which is why 1 1/3 is less than either the 2 hours alone for Dennis or the 4 hours alone for Melina. Ta-da!